Hi, I'm Nadia.
And I'm Nicole. Welcome to the Wealth Twins channel.
Today we're going to talk about 6 of the most interesting ETFs Schwab has to offer.
We're going to tell you what they are, why they made our list, and the things you should know before buying ETFs.
If that sounds good to you, then hit the like button and let's get started. All right, the first 3 ETFs we want to tell you about are Schwab Fundamental U.S. Broad Market Index ETF. Ticker symbol is FNDB.
And as in Nicole.
This is a fund that tries to track the return of the Russell-Raffy U.S. Index. The price right now is around $46. It has an expense ratio of 0.25%, 30-day yield of 1.92%, and over 1,600 holdings. And they also include the names such as Apple, and what's funny right now is also GameStop.
GameStop.
This fund is beating the benchmark right now and is passively managed. If you had put in $10,000 when the fund was first created in 2013, your investment right now would be worth close to $22,000.
Not bad, not bad. Now, the second ETF we want to talk to you about is called the Fundamental Emerging Markets Large Company Index ETF, ticker symbol FNDE.
N as in Nadia.
And D as in David. Well, anyway, this fund tries to track the total returns of the Russell-Raffy Emerging Markets Large Company Index. The price right now is around $29, a cost of 39 basis points. It has over $3 billion in assets with over 341 holdings.
That's a lot.
Yes, right now the yield is hovering around 2.72%, which is a good deal.
That's a good deal.
Okay, and if you had put in $10,000 in 2013, it would now be worth $13,600. Now, we like this fund because of the way it's set up. The fund is set up as an easy way to get access to the largest emerging market companies without getting much exposure to SOEs, also known as state-owned enterprises. And actually, you can get very good companies rather than the highest market cap companies. Most of these holdings are in China, so this fund actually took a big hit last year. But things are getting better because actually China was able to grow its economy over 2% when everyone thought that it would contract because of the virus.
China is winning right now.
Yeah. Now, for comparison, if you think 2% is not a lot, well, China actually grew while last year the U.S. economy actually shrank by 3.5%.
Yep. So the next fund we want to tell you about is the Schwab Fundamental International Small Company Index ETF. Ticker symbol is FNDC. This is currently trading around $35, has a cost of 39 basis points, is passively managed, has a 30-day yield of 1.54%, and a $10,000 investment in 2013 will be worth almost $17,000 right now. Most of the countries represented in this are Asia and in Europe, with Japan and the UK being represented the most.
Now, let's just break for a second. Now, we mentioned both the words BPS with basis points, and we also mentioned expense ratio. These two terms are related. You can talk about the cost of a fund as being an expense ratio, which is represented as a percent, so 0.39%, or you can say the cost of the fund is 39 basis points. A basis point is 0.1%. So let's just get the definitions out the way to help you.
Yeah, we're teaching you guys, okay? Now, based on these 3 that we just discussed, you may be saying out loud, why is this so interesting? What's so interesting about these ETFs, twins? The yields aren't spectacular, the prices are so-so, and the expenses are so-so. So why should I care?
How different are these from, say, Schwab's SCHHB, which is Schwab's U.S. Broad Market Index, which you can get for a lower expense ratio, and it also has a similar yield to FNDB, which was the first one that we mentioned.
So why should I care?
Well, this is when things get a little interesting, or actually when they get very interesting, okay?
Listen.
On the surface, these funds don't look like anything special, but when you take a deeper look and see how these ETFs are actually organized, that's when you start saying, oh, this is nice.
I can see why they picked them.
Okay.
Now, FNDB, FNDE, and FNDC are part of Schwab's fundamental ETF family, also called strategic beta.
Now, what is strategic beta, Nadia?
Strategic beta is an ETF management strategy that seeks to improve returns or potentially reduce risk relative to traditional market cap indices.
The strategic beta fund screens companies and selects and weights them based on 3 economic factors. 1, adjusted sales of the company. 2, the retained operating cash flows of the company, and 3, the dividends plus the buybacks of the company. These are what Schwab uses to determine what they call a company's economic footprint.
Yeah, when a fund is based around the economic footprint of a company, it is geared towards the properties of the company that benefit the shareholder the most.
Say that again, Nadia.
That benefit the shareholder the most.
I like it.
For a comparison, a traditional passive ETF uses market cap to determine weights, right? In exchange, like these kind of passive ETFs, just try to give cost-effective exposure and tries to mimic its benchmark, okay? An actively managed fund tries to handpick companies to outperform its benchmark.
ETFs that focus on market caps due to determine the weights of the fund tend to become overweighted by the highest market cap companies.
Yeah.
Where a strategic beta fund doesn't determine its holdings based on market cap. The strategic fund will use the fundamentals that we mentioned earlier and will actually overweight undervalued companies and underweight overpriced companies in comparison to a traditional passive ETF, okay? Even if they follow the same benchmark.
So, for example, you can have companies such as Facebook, Amazon, and Google still included in FNDB, the U.S. Broad Market Fund, but then they just won't be weighted as heavily as they would be in SCHD,
which is another Schwab fund, okay?
Yeah. When most people talk about ETF investing, they usually speak about passive ETFs versus actively managed ETFs, as if they're the only ones available.
Okay, active ETFs usually get a bad rep because studies have shown that they underperform and they're also not tax efficient. Passive ETFs were considered the solution to this problem, all right? Since the job of a passive ETF, like Nadia mentioned earlier, is just to match the benchmark and not try to beat it, and also be tax efficient at the same time.
However, the issue with traditional passive ETFs is that it bases the weight of the company it has in the fund based on market cap. That means the largest companies have much more effect on determining the yield of the fund. Also, as the price of the highest market cap companies go up, so does your exposure. A passive ETF that is based on market cap will also not rebalance just because of the price of these underlying companies have increased. Therefore, you're technically buying high and selling low.
Say that again, Nadia.
You're buying high and selling low, and no one wants to do that.
Now, with selective beta funds, you don't base your fund on market cap and you do rebalance. For example, if one of the companies in your fund price goes up, but it's not due to one of the fundamentals of adjusted sales, dividend plus buyback, or retained operating cash flow, the fund will rebalance. Rebalancing like this allows the fund to actually buy low and sell high. It's
Much
inherently put into the way this fund is created, okay? You also have a way to determine how you rebalance so that you are more tax efficient than an actively managed fund. And on top of that, you also have a chance to outperform the benchmark you are going against as well.
Yeah, these selective beta funds that we've mentioned are passively managed, but have some qualities of an actively managed fund. Therefore, it's like a compromise between the two main styles, active and passive. Okay?
Now, we're talking about, weights and selection and stuff. Now, why is that important? Now, when it comes to market weight and selection, they're important because when you talk about ETF investing, these are things you should think about when you're selecting your ETFs. When you are selecting ETFs in your portfolio, you should really think about 3 things: exposure, holding costs, and trading costs.
Now let's get into exposure and holding costs, okay? Exposure is the first thing you should think about when you are selecting an ETF, okay? You have to think about this first. In order to minimize your exposure, a good starting point would be to understand the makeup of the ETF and see how the fund selects which companies go into the fund and how they determine the weights.
The methods used for selecting companies and weights can lead to some big differences to how exposed the fund is to different risks, all right? Not understanding these methods used to actually select the companies can make you think that your portfolio is more diversified than what it really is.
Yeah, you could be getting fooled, all right? The next thing to think about is the holding costs. The holding costs are all costs associated with buying the fund and holding it long term rather than buying the individual companies outright. Many investors think the only cost the fund has is the expense ratio. However, expense ratio is only part of the holding cost.
Only part of it. Other holding costs to be aware of are the ones that are associated with the fund not matching the performance of its benchmark.
Yep.
Okay. If the fund is really far off from the performance that it could be doing, it could be because the managers that you're paying for aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and you're incurring management costs, okay, and they're not doing a good job, or the management style that they're using, which is a quick way to buy and sell, whatever way they're determining to buy and sell, can also be affecting the performance of the fund.
Although the strategic beta can be more volatile than traditional passive ETFs, we think the overall thinking behind the way these funds are created and the benefits they can provide make these family of funds some of the most interesting Schwab has to offer.
They're very interesting, guys, okay? Now, we said that there were 6 funds in total that we liked. Outside of the 3 that we mentioned earlier, there are 3 more we want to talk about.
Yep.
You have the Schwab Fundamental U.S. Large Company Index ETF, ticker symbol FNDX, the Schwab Fundamental U.S. Small Company Index ETF, ticker symbol FNDA, the Schwab Fundamental International Large Company Index ETF, ticker symbol FNDF. Okay, these additional 3 funds each have over 5 years of performance that can be analyzed. They aren't small, they have good trading volume, and are reasonably priced. Also, they all provide a dividend.
Yeah, so now you know all the Schwab fundamental passive ETFs that are available. If you're interested in ETF investing and financial independence, we believe you should do some more research into these and see if they will fit into your portfolio. If you would like to know more about financial independence and learn more about why we really like dividend investing, check out the videos we have linked in the description and at the end of this video.
Check them out, guys. Now, if you found value in this video, please show these twins some love, subscribe, and share this video with someone you care about.
See you guys in the next video.